Let's find out about someone walking 800 miles next.
Starting your day the right way. This is Spirit Mornings on the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Bruce, as we said earlier, the Sarah route of the 4 different routes of the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage, the Sarah route has been in Nebraska for a few days now and will continue on through Sunday and make its way into Iowa after then. But it's called the Sarah route, named after St. Junipero Serra. We have Christian Clifford with us. He is the author of the book called Walking the Footsteps of St. Junipero Serra. Good morning, Christian Clifford.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here.
Thanks for being with us. Now tell us a little bit about St. Junipero Serra.
So Junipero Serra was born in Mallorca, Spain in 1713. And at a very young age, everyone around him seemed to recognize he had a vocation to the priesthood, and his local parish was Franciscan. So they sent him off to Palma to become a priest. He was brilliant. He eventually became a professor of sacred theology, and he had for Franciscan, they take a vow of poverty, but he had a pretty good life, and but something was really gnawing at him. And when the call came to be a missionary in New Spain, he at a pretty later stage in life said, "Yeah, this is for me. God's calling me to do this." And he went to Mexico, and for 20 years he actually evangelized people who had already heard the gospel. So he's kind of down about that, but did a good job. And then he got the call to go to what is currently Baja California. And the Franciscans, there's a big geopolitical thing going on, took over the missions for the Jesuits who were suppressed. They're called back to Europe. And so the Franciscans took over the missions there. There were about 20 plus. And he was there for about a year. And he got the call to go to, at the time it's called Nueva California, which is the current state of California in the United States. And it was on that journey that he actually saw natives, encountered them who had never heard the gospel before. And he founded his first mission in San Diego. Is actually a second. He founded one on the way. And eventually in the state of California, there'd be 21 missions founded by the Franciscan order, the first 9 under the leadership of Junipero Serra. He was the father president.
Christian, I've had
the gist of it.
Yeah. Christian, I've had the chance to visit that San Diego mission along with 64 other people on pilgrimage, many of them from Nebraska and Iowa from Spirit Catholic Radio here, and it was very powerful. We went to 9 missions in the state of California. It was a beautiful pilgrimage that we had the chance to be on, and a docent led us through that very first one there in San Diego. We got to see that white cross that is there, the first cross that was planted, and also understand the cross that he would carry, a very large cross that he would carry as he walked to all of these missions and built them. Tell us a little bit about the missions, because I try to explain the missions to people, because like Spain and Russia were trying to take over California and they were fighting each other and they just wanted to obliterate the natives that were there. And St. Junipero Serra, he was like, no, these individuals have dignity and we need to bring them into the fold, kind of.
Yeah, so we can imagine back in like St. Petersburg, in London, the Spanish emissary getting word that, hey, we're thinking about this part of the world and going there. And then they got the word back to the king. And, the Spaniards had been here in the early 1600s, the late 1500s, exploring and doing maps and so on. But it was basically forgotten. They were put in some archives in Madrid and Mexico City. And when they got word of these, the Russians and the English and so on, they said, we got to get some boots on the ground. So the expedition was actually a duel because the church and state were so intertwined at the time. And they had the soldiers and they had the priests coming up to California. And once the natives freely accepted baptism, they weren't forced to, then they became also Spanish citizens. So back in the courts in Europe, they could say, hey, we have Spaniards living there. Stay away. That's our place.
Oh.
The closest the Russians got was in Sonoma County. They had a fort there, Fort Ross. And the English, I think, the Portland area up in the Columbia River, they had Fort Vancouver there. So it wasn't a figment of their imagination, but eventually 21 would be set up. About 70,000 would enter the church. Unfortunately, due to disease, a lot, because it was very isolated. Actually, on the maps, they thought California was an island at one time, the Spaniards and the Europeans. That was about 40 miles from the coast was the sphere of influence, and about 500 miles. Now, I walked 800 miles because it's not a direct line. The 21 missions, they're kind of like zigzagging because of access to rivers and so on for water, access to the ocean. Yeah.
Why did you do that? What made you want to walk the missions? This is so powerful. What was the draw?
Well, I didn't lose my mind, but there was an opportunity there for me to go and do this. I met a group called the California Mission Walkers, and they are like enthusiasts. They're Catholic and non-Catholic who love to walk and love the California mission history. And only about, at the time when I finished a couple of years ago, only about 50 people had done the whole thing. People kind of do it in bits and pieces. Some do it on a through walk. I think they're retirees. They have time on their hands. But I just thought years ago I want to do the Santiago de Compostela. I've never been able to because of other things have had going on. And I'm like, when I met the California Mission Walkers and learned about this, I'm like, we kind of have our own Santiago de Compostela in my own backyard, so why not try it? And I'm kind of one of those people, kind of pig-headed, stubborn. When I start something, I'm going to finish it. And it was a really great thing to deepen my faith, to be with my own thoughts and to reflect on life in general. And it really, really was a great choice that I made.
Right, and the Knights of Columbus, of course, chronicling your 800-mile pilgrimage of the California Missions Trail, walking in the footsteps of St. Junipero Serra. So the big question I guess we're left with is, through making this 800-mile trek, what was the thing that most profoundly influenced you, or maybe one or two things that just absolutely, totally grabbed your attention?
Yeah, so I actually started doing it alone, and along the way, thanks to the California Mission Walkers, they have some people will host you. You reach out to them, and they're like, yeah, I'm in town. You can stay in this room. And they're just a great group of people. And then also some people would join me on my walk. Probably one of the best things was my son at the time was about 10 years old, and he walked about 10 miles with me. And then he tapped out. It was a little too tough for him, but that was really, really special. And so the idea of walking alone, but then people inviting you and you're inviting them, and the idea that we're a pilgrim people is really the kind of, and I think that's really, I'm seeing that in a lot of the media, the interviews, your previous guest, the National Eucharistic Pilgrimage. That's really so clear that we Catholics are a pilgrim people. Junipero Serra's own he wrote about, don't look back, look forward. So the idea, I think, that this world is temporary. That's a fact. We all know that. And the next life is eternal. So that's where we're on pilgrimage too. And so I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I took away from my 800-mile walk up the California coast.
Christian Clifford is with us. He's the author of the book Walking the Footsteps of St. Junipero Serra. And Christian, when we made it as a group to Mount Carmel, where Saint Junipero Serra is entombed, I don't know if exhaustion had really started to set in, but I weeped so, and I'm talking like ugly cry. Like I really started weeping really bad at the tomb of Saint Junipero Serra, and I wasn't weeping for him because I knew where he was. Like he was in his heavenly reward. I was weeping because I had learned so much about his life. I mean, the good majority of his life, he had walked with this terrible wound from like an insect bite early on, and the natives had helped keep it at bay with this special salve they had made. But he had walked, with this debilitating problem with his leg, and he just kept going, just for the love and the dignity of humans that he had, and for the love of God, and helping more people understand who Jesus was. And I was just like, I just felt like I need to do more. Like there's just so much more that we can do in this world as faithful Catholics. And I think that's where my tears had come from, in just learning more about this great man.
I know he's so inspirational. He was 5'2", which was even short for that day. And yeah, he got that debilitating wound on the first night in Mexico. He was sleeping under the stars. He actually walked a lot, but probably a brown recluse spider bit him, and it ulcerated that part of his leg off and on for the rest of his life. And it never stopped him. Actually, that's what he wrote in his letter from Cadiz to his parents, trying to console them. But he recognized that, hey, I'm pretty sure my parents, because of what this means in the bigger picture, right, are for what I'm doing, and or for what he was doing. And he wrote at the end there, siempre adelante, right, ever forward, right? That's it, ever forward to heaven, to bring more people to heaven. And that's what motivated him for his every breath he took. His writings are free online. You can just sense that the dignity of the native, and how much he wanted to bring Christ to them and transform the world in which he lived for the better.
Spirit Mornings on the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. I'm Jen Brown along with Bruce McGregor. We're having the joy of talking with Christian Clifford, author of a book called The Footsteps of St. Junipero Serra. And we have a question about the people walking footsteps right now.
Yeah, they're on the move. And any advice for the pilgrims going through Nebraska now that you could give them, Christian?
Sure. I was actually siempre adelante, right? The practical, I'm pretty sure they've been on the road for some time, that they know sunscreen, water, and take care of those feet. Take care of those feet, because blisters and losing toenails, that can really ruin your day. Of course, hats. But that's the practical. The spiritual, siempre adelante. Keep your eye on Indianapolis, and of course the Eucharist, and all the people that you have looking at you saying, this happened to me. I wasn't carrying the Blessed Sacrament, but a lot of people like, what the heck are you doing? And just that alone, when people see that procession, it gets them thinking, and hopefully open to conversation with the people processing. Hey, what are you guys doing? And that might be right there, the invitation to speak about the Blessed Sacrament and how powerful it is for us Catholics and Orthodox Christians and Christians in general, right?
There's this really cool story. So there's these modified vans that Jesus is processing in at the same time. Overnight he's in adoration at churches, and then some places he either goes via boat or a van for the kind of really long distance, the stretches of interstate, and usually processes through cities. So it's not like an 800-mile trek. It's they're going in short spurts, like 15, 10, 6-mile. So, but there is this really cool story. I was watching a webcast of some of the permanent pilgrims, and they were talking about this amazing van that they have, this Eucharistic vehicle, and how they lock the Eucharist in. And so the base, as you can imagine, they kind of they lock it into this rotating thing. But while they're driving, as you're driving. It's kind of bumpy. And what happens is the pilgrims were telling us that as they were adoring Jesus, he would slide around in the base. Now, he was secure, but he would just move ever so slightly, just enough to be facing each one of them in their travels. And I thought, what a perfectly pure example of how much he is with us all the time. So he would just, the bumps of the road would just have him move, just the monstrance move just enough to face all three of the permanent pilgrims in the van as they were traveling and adoring. Isn't that so powerful, Christian?
That really is. I kind of had an experience similar to that in terms of how it moved me when I was at Mission San Fernando, Rey de España in the San Fernando Valley down in Southern California, and I entered the Mission Church, which is still an active parish, and lo and behold, I just went in there to say a little prayer of thanksgiving, and there was a huge group being baptized, babies and young adults and adults and being baptized. And I kind of just, I'm a part of something massive, you know, and alive. And I think that people are experiencing that in many different ways. Those feelings, Christ speaking to them, seeing church in a new light during this time right now on the road to Indianapolis.
Right. Christian, thanks for spending time with us. We deeply appreciate it. Let's check the website that you have, missions1769.com. Is that the site?
That's correct. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, people can connect with you. Christian Clifford, author of the book, Walking in the Footsteps of St. Junipero Serra, and the website is missions1769.com. Have a blessed day, Christian. Thanks for sharing your experience with us.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Spirit Mornings on the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. That is super cool. I love that. Getting us all ready.
Yeah.
Jesus is right now in the state of Nebraska, processing in the state of Nebraska. We are here to provide some updates for you throughout the week. And also, if you need actual, right now, real-time updates of what's going on, you can go to the website, spiritcatholicradio.com.